All right, let's kick this off. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our first customer session of the day. As we continue the RKO theme, the Year of the Customer, I'd like to welcome and thank two incredible folks from Mindgruve for taking the time out of their days and PTO to come and talk with us and share how they're using Supermetrics in their agency, as well as across their teams. With us today, we have James McKinny, Group Analytics Director from Mindgruve, and Tim Haag, Analytics Director from Mindgruve. And additionally, the one and only Zach Bricker is joining us as well. But without further ado, let's jump in. And before we dive too deep, Tim and James, could you give us a little intro about yourself and your role at Mindgruve?
Yeah, I'm James. I'm the Group Analytics Director. Been at Mindgruve for a little over 5 years. I help run the analytics team, and I work with Tim Haag here too, who heads up our data science team as our analytics director as well.
We lead a small data engineering team of 2 people and myself that use your tool as well as the analysts use your tool too, and we'll talk about how that is today.
Great. I think I'll direct this at James then. Tell us a little about Mindgruve, what you guys, some of your specialties there at the agency, how long you've been around.
So Mindgroove's been around for 23 years, started in San Diego. Most of us are still in San Diego, though we're increasingly remote. We're about 200 people at this point. We've won the Inc. 5000 fastest growing company for 6 years in a row, and we got Adweek as well, fastest growing this year, so that's exciting. When it comes to our clients, we're all over the place. We don't really have a specialty or industry that we focus on. We do B2B and B2C, lead gen, e-com clients. We have startups and big global enterprise companies that we work with, so it's all over the place.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that you guys are having so much success, and congratulations for all of your awards. I want to jump in actually and talk about your journey with Supermetrics. From our conversation, you've been a customer for about 5 years, I believe, starting with Google Sheets and then in the past year adding Data Warehouse. Can you walk us through what led you to partner with Supermetrics in the first place, and what led you to grow that journey with us?
Yeah, I can definitely speak to kind of the beginning of the relationship, which I think was 4 or 5 years ago. And then Tim can speak to what we've been doing more recently. But in the beginning, I mean, it was very, very basic. When I started, just about all the data we worked with was manually exported from like paid media platforms and things like that and stored in Google Sheets and Excel. Very, very manual. So just starting with Supermetrics, we started with the Google Sheets product, just being able to automate the vast majority of the paid media data sources that we're working with was huge. It saved us a ton of time. Again, very simplistic back then, but it allowed us to kind of focus on more actual analysis and less reporting squirrel type stuff and pulling data and things like that. But we've been able to grow with you guys as well. I think we're moving well beyond Google Sheets and that kind of stuff at this point, and I'll hand it over to Tim to speak to that.
Yeah, sure. So that's why Mindgruve brought me on a little less than a year ago. And at that time, we were in contract negotiations with Grace, and we took on the warehousing side. So we're standing up a warehouse in Google BigQuery. We have, I don't know, 8 clients pretty well moved over there, and some other clients partially there. What made us decide to continue staying with Supermetrics for that migration after using you for Sheets was the platforms that you guys support is a key thing. All those pre-built connectors, every single one of those saves time on reporting. And also, I think it's important not to overlook the ease of using the tool. If you're familiar with data, you should be able to jump in there and use the query manager and pull some fields and get transfers set up in a matter of minutes. It's an expectation of our clients too, to move to a warehouse, to have these modern offerings. So like James said, it's really about, I think we've grown alongside Supermetrics and continue to use the new tools that you're offering.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear that. And Tim, on the connector front, what are some of the top connectors that you're using?
Yeah, so I took a look before this call. It looks like we're using around 34 of your connectors. At least 20 of those very heavily, probably. So we're in the digital marketing space. So a lot of things you'd expect to see there, like Google Analytics, Google Ads, AdSense, Adobe Analytics, and on the Microsoft side, Microsoft Advertising. Google has a bunch of products like Google Display and Video, Google Campaign Manager. I'd like to also bring up some things that some people might not expect if they're not as familiar with the space. Mailchimp, the survey or mail and surveys are always Quora ads we have. And then Salesforce is really big. And I know you guys, it seems like you've been doing development on Salesforce on that connector. But yeah, obviously it's a leader in the CRM side. So we pull a lot of data out of there. Anything, James, that you're thinking about?
No, I think it's pretty much it.
Yeah, we could go on.
I actually have a quick question for you guys. Let's circle back to the last question that Jess asked. When you were giving your explanation, was your principal motivation for moving to the data warehouse your customers, like they were driving the need, or was it, maybe James, from your standpoint, was it Tim saying, get out of the Sheets ages and get into a data warehouse? What did that look like?
I think it was a combination of kind of internal stakeholders and client needs. The people who interact with our dashboards the most are definitely our internal teams, because they also use them just to decide daily optimizations and things like that. And when we were living in Google Sheets entirely, our dashboards ran very slowly, which was definitely a pain point internally for frequent users and clients. And we're also very limited in how much data you can fundamentally store into Google Sheets. So that limited some of the more complex reporting we wanted to do, like creative performance and things with a lot of dimensions and metrics, where it just we couldn't outgrow that limitation. So definitely heard about it internally on that being a pain point. And then we want to also offer the best we can to our clients, and we felt like the data warehouse had a lot of benefits, just immediately solving those issues for us, and then also just opening up our ability to see like cross client data, get some market level trends and things like that. And just knowing kind of the upside there is why we kind of sought to bring Tim on to help us implement that.
Yeah, and I think obviously the client cares about the end result. And if a dashboard is powered by Sheets or BigQuery, they don't really notice that. We do have a couple use cases where clients are needing us to provide them with data from these platforms that is at scale. So for those couple cases, it was client driven, but to be fair, mostly the client isn't noticing the transition, which is kind of what you'd expect, right? Or what you'd hope for.
One thing I want to pass over to either Tim or James. How are you measuring the impact of Supermetrics for your business and in your agency? Specifically estimated or actual ROI for the problems that we're able to help you solve?
So, I mean, I think the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, is effort hours for the team. Just not having to pull things manually, being able to rely on automation and APIs is big. And we do quantify that. We look at that quarterly, just, how the team's time is spent. And that's easily in the hundreds of hours per quarter, easily in the thousands when we look at our overall relationship with Supermetrics. So that's been huge. I think there's some intangibles as well. I think the way we were able to kind of staff the team at this point is fundamentally different. So again, fewer reporting squirrels or outsourcing of that kind of role, because we're able to automate it with you guys, and that lets us do the things that the clients want to pay us for. So the more advanced analysis and the data science and things like that. I think when it comes to the quality of the data, that's been a big benefit for us as well. Being able to kind of remove a lot of the elements of human error, which had been an issue in the past, it's been hugely beneficial for us. The frequency of data updates to most of our data, I think, is updated on a daily cadence. It's big for clients. It's also big internally. Again, we have internal stakeholders relying on all this data for daily optimizations. Getting dashboards, new dashboards and dashboard updates out the door is also much more efficient. Just being able to kind of structure the data in kind of a replicable way where we can kind of share the same core schema across similar client types and things like that. Definitely kind of improve the pain point that we had where oftentimes it could take months for us to build a dashboard from start to finish. Now it's much more plug and play. So all those things are definitely, we attribute to our relationship with you guys.
Yeah, just to highlight two of those, you mentioned about the accuracy. I mean, I don't think I have to tell the people on the call, but when the kind of reporting we were doing has all this business logic that used to be shoved into Google Sheets or Excel, and you guys know how that goes with formulas on top of formulas. And so yeah, once you get it into a warehouse and it's quality controlled, then it can stay correct, hopefully. And then I think a lot of reporting was weekly. Is that correct, James? Like a weekly cadence? And so we'd only update a dashboard weekly, which this day and age is pretty poor expectation to give your client. So once we get it automated, we're happy to provide it daily, and so that's really nice.
That's great. Thank you for that. And I'm very happy that you're seeing such a benefit with Supermetrics. Tim, from our conversation, and I'm very happy Zach is on the call as well. I'm sure that he'll have a couple of questions for you. But you mentioned being able to bring better data in through our data warehousing solution, empowering you to build better models for your clients. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so sometimes when you report directly out of the UI of a platform, you're limited on what you can bring. And I know that occasionally there's API limitations as well on your side when you're setting up connectors. But overall, we're able to get, better data, much more data, longer look back windows. So all those things help us. We have individuals on the team that do sales forecasting looking forward. And the clients have really been appreciating that. So they use some machine learning models to produce a basic forecast. And, we had a client recently that increased spend a little bit, and they did see better results, and the results were slightly better than the forecast. And so everything in that scenario kind of lined up nicely. They were really excited to see these good results, and they aligned with what the forecast was looking at. And a couple other use cases, now that we have it in a warehouse, we have alerts that are triggered if there's outlier events in performance. And these alerts were set up using the help of the data that comes in from Supermetrics, of course, and then the Google Cloud platform where we can enable cloud functions in there. And we send an email, or not an email, we send a message to our chat platform so that you can see it in real time, because who wants an email? So all of those are great. I think the last use case I'd mention is we are standing up some what they call MMM modeling, the media mix modeling, to understand the impact of spend. And again, we just need that data over time. We need it somewhere where we can access it easily. So it's all empowered by Supermetrics.
That's great. And Zach, I think that you have a question. I'll let you jump in here.
Yeah. So you kind of answered it, to be honest, but would you say that incorporating Supermetrics and, to James's point, getting that time back from having to do things manually has enabled your data analytics and data science teams to branch out? And to be honest, from when I came to Supermetrics, I was a data scientist before this. Building APIs is one of the worst things in the world. It takes up so much time. The management of it takes up so much time. But when I actually had a functional system that was automated, then you can do the fun stuff. Have you found that your analysts and your data science team is able to experiment more, obviously get what they need to do done, but they have more time to be free and to think and to come up with new ways to service your clients? And what has that impact been like? You kind of alluded it to a little bit, so if you've already answered it, that's cool. But yeah, if you could speak a little more about that, that'd be awesome.
So we Yeah, we have one individual on the team who's really excited in data science, and so he's been petitioning James and some other people. And so we've hired we've hired some data engineers. So that's because of the the lift of moving stuff out of a current process into a warehouse. So those people will be allocated on other projects in a little while. So in the meantime, there is that requirement of that amount of time. But yeah, the analysts have that individual is interested in data science has moved it off to the warehousing type tasks and the data transfer type tasks and the updating tasks he used to do, and now he's putting together some of these models.
Yeah, what Tim said, just broadly, I mean, it's been a pretty fundamental shift to how our team is structured and how we hire at this point. I think we're going from a spot where it used to be just about every analyst on the team would spend about half their time just moving data around. And we've been able to really minimize that. So now we all have close to 40 hours to, focus purely on the analysis and, the data science and things that clients really want us to be doing. And I mean, just how we structure the team, like we've been able to build out specialty areas that we otherwise would not have been able to do. We have people, growing, Tim alluded to it, like our ability to accurately forecast, I think is leaps and bounds beyond what it had been a couple years ago, just because of how much time we get to allocate to that kind of thing going forward. And that's true for how we're trying to kind of grow into AI and, much more user-friendly and advanced dashboards and, all the other things that we do as a typical analytics team. I think we're just able to really double down on kind of the really valuable stuff that we're capable of doing, as opposed to really being in the weeds and, again, moving data around and not adding much value.
Yeah. One more thing to add there is, as you know, Zach, there's those visuals on progression of how you use data, and so since we're in this growth phase and this transition phase, we're still trying to make sure all the fundamentals are done. So not every client is moved to BigQuery yet, and so the first step, you got to have the data. It has to be clean data. Then you can report on the data. Once all that's solid, then you have more time and space and resources to do that advanced analytics. So we're halfway there.
In terms of the people in the organization who are using, or maybe the power users of the Google Sheet product, who are they in the organization?
I think it's just about everybody on the analytics team. About a dozen people have pretty frequent involvement in it. For us, each analyst works on maybe 3 to 5 accounts, depending on size. So each analyst also plays a role in gathering data, structuring it, and putting it into dashboards. We're all pretty hands-on there, so it's very pervasive throughout the team.
Great. And does anyone throughout your demand teams, performance teams, or client teams, do they use Supermetrics or the Google Sheet product for any kind of data pull, or is that mainly handled within analytics?
It's mostly handled through analytics, but we do have people on other teams who maybe have an analytics background or just interested in data, and they're comfortable kind of going in there and using it themselves. We also we cooperate on that a lot. So it's one of the things we actively offer and remind everybody out within the agency. If there's anything you find yourself doing regularly when it comes to data that you think might be automated, please ask. And through that, we've had a lot of examples come up where, when it comes to, each team is very focused on budget tracking, making sure we don't go over, and we're, tracking as we should throughout the month. That's something that we've been able to automate for everybody, creative level performance. The alerts dash that Tim was referring to earlier. We've had issues where somebody accidentally swaps a click tracker for an impression tracker, and all of a sudden there's a $60,000 bill that we were not expecting, and things like that in the past. We've been able to kind of automate away to the benefit of other internal teams, not just us.
That's fantastic. And if I'm hearing you correctly there, it's being able to get ahead of some of those issues from like a spend perspective, if I'm hearing you correctly there.
Yeah, there's a lot where whether it's spend or just tracking broke and we lost conversion tracking, or something went haywire. In the past, when this was more manual and we were at best doing weekly reporting for our clients, it's going to be a week until we catch that, and a lot of bad stuff can accumulate over the course of a week, to the point where now with Supermetrics, it's at least daily where we're monitoring that and able to kind of set some benchmarks or rails for what is normal. And as soon as something is abnormal, we all get a message in our chat system saying, check this out. That's been pretty huge for us.
I think this has been incredible so far. I'm curious, what you mentioned was the way that you think about the ROI for our products in your business is time savings and hours, and not having errors come up, and being able to be proactive instead of reactive. Those are some of the things I heard. The other piece was you were able to actually shift the resource in data engineering from doing some of what we do for you now to actually being able to do MMM. So those were some of the things that I heard. If I got that wrong, please correct me. One thing that I didn't hear that I'm curious to just understand, if you think about it this way, has there been any direct attribution to clients saved, or the ability to show clients won because of what you're now able to provide?
I think for clients won, I think we can speak to analytics as a strong suit. We can speak to a lot of the specific, quote unquote features that we can bring to the table, like the alert stash, I think is a big thing that kind of has supported some of our business pitches. And we're currently working on a pretty significant project, building out more of a proprietary tool set for our team to be able to offer to clients. And BigQuery and the Supermetrics relationship is definitely at the core of being able to do that. So well, I can't really point to a client right now and say we want them because of Supermetrics. I think with that product going forward, there's definitely the expectation that that's going to bring on some new business we otherwise would not have had access to, and Supermetrics is definitely a big part of that.
We have the one large consumer electronics company, and I don't know exactly how the expectations came up, but it seems like they wanted their data to start being accessible in cloud warehouse. So the Supermetrics helped us meet that demand, which otherwise, like you said, we're writing custom APIs, which we don't want to be doing.
Yeah, that's a good example. This global consumer electronics brand that I know everybody has heard of. We started with a very limited scope with them. I think it was basically helping them with the tagging behind a website update, like very, very limited. But we got our foot in the door and it was a good relationship. And then as other vendors maybe let them down when it comes to data engineering and some of that kind of stuff, we were able to step in. And that's been a pretty significant scope for us ever since. And being able to fulfill that and doing a good job on that project has opened up some like media spend opportunities and things like that, where now it's one of our largest accounts from what used to be very small. And we definitely got traction in building that relationship through these types of tools.
That's really helpful. So if I'm understanding correctly, I would make the assumption that that's probably a seven-figure difference in your business in reality. Is that a fair assumption that a client like that is going to bring that type of value? Is that something that we can feel pretty confident when we're speaking to agencies like yourself that will be able to provide value there? Yeah,
that's accurate. I'd say Supermetrics contributed to a seven-figure client relationship that we did not have prior.
Great, that's really helpful.
I just want to say thank you so much for joining with us. It's absolutely incredible for you to join. It's customers like you that make it easy for us to grow better day over day. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
Our
It's been
pleasure.
fun, and
thank you guys.
thanks for all the support from Grace over the months.